let's talk about the cons on this because there's definitely some cons. So, as much as I said that you can get this faster, this will get started quicker than building new construction. But it's not purpose built. And I think that is really my biggest takeaway having done this, having purchased a home, gutted it, did a huge addition to it. It is still not purpose built. It is still not exactly how I want it to be. And my two biggest negatives on it are one, it is harder to operate, and I'll unpack some of those things, but it's harder to operate because it's not designed for it. And the second being, I'm not making as much money as I could. Now, because again, my sales are lower potentially to what they could have been if I had my magic wand and I built this exactly the way I wanted it to. So let's talk about some of these things. Usually when you're going to start with a home, you have bedrooms there, and most people will just keep those size bedrooms. And you got kids' bedrooms, and you have small bedrooms, and they are not going to be, well, they're going to be small. Some of them you may have a master and you may split it or however you want to set these things up, but they're not purpose built to compete with the big facilities down the road as far as pricing and those kind of things. And so potentially you have small bedrooms. You may not have enough closet space. You may have tight hallways. If you're just taking a normal residential house, right, with a like 32-inch hallway, man, I tell you what, it's hard to get a wheelchair down there, right? Especially if you have to make a hard angle. And you're definitely not passing two wheelchairs in a hallway, or if you have to get a gurney into a hallway, things like that. It just makes it difficult on staff, and it makes it difficult to sell when the daughter's walking through touring and they're trying to envision their mom in this like small, 10 by 10 kids room with no bathroom and this like little tiny closet. And it's like, well, how does mom get through here? And those kind of things. So I would say that's another of the negatives. Usually there's not enough bathrooms and potentially showers, right? And this may or may not be important to you, but for me, having gone through it and learned the hard lessons of what I want on the next round, I want the private bedrooms, I want the private bathrooms, I want to have all these things because I'll be able to charge more, and my mortgage will be much lower relative to my increase in income. So my profit margin is going to be much, much higher by having exactly what my customer wants and being able to charge an extra $500 or an extra $1,000 per bed per month. That's a massive amount of increase of income. So I think that it is a big negative to not have it be purpose built. A lot of times you don't have the space for the living room, for the dining room, for activities. And as you're touring and daughter comes in and she sees, the living room with like the row of recliners or whatever, it just kind of looks It's like, yeah, okay, it's some home that somebody converted into an assisted living. And that's good. I mean, it's at least you're not in a big facility, but at least a facility is purpose built for this type of environment. And mom has space to have her own little area, right? There's multiple areas of like hanging out, and daughter can come and sit in a little area away from everyone else. But in a smaller residential, if you start with a house, there's really not those little pockets and little separate community spaces. So, and then you try and get all those people around a dining room table, especially if you have 16 people in a house. I mean, it's really, really hard unless you've designed for this. So I think that there's some strong negatives here, and we haven't even talked about zoning yet, right? Like we talked about there's houses everywhere as one of the pros, but what about the zoning? What is the city? What are they going to say you can do, right? Are they going to say, okay, yeah, you can do this, but you can do it at 6? Like, I hate a 6 bed. Man, I don't want to be handcuffed. I want to make as much money as I want to make, and really, I don't want an outside authority limiting that, right? So zoning in this type of issue is definitely clearly a con, and it can be really hard to do a deal that is profitable because of buying this existing home that's most likely zoned residential. Now, there's plenty of houses that are not zoned residential, right? There's mixed use, and there's outside of the city limits or in unincorporated areas, or houses that used to be like on a thoroughfare that perhaps are now zoned commercial, or maybe they're R2 or R4, and you can do these kind of deals. So you can get this stuff done with a house. I did, and that has its own unique challenges to it. But I want you just to kind of know the pros and the cons, right? It is clearly the fastest way to renovate something and do it relative to a new construction, but it does have its drawbacks. And I would clearly say to you that you will make less money from it. You'll get it done faster. It may be 6 months or 12 months faster, but you may make half the amount of money, right? And now from the backside of this perspective, I was very impatient on my first one. I wanted to get it done now. But now, several years into this, man, I wish I had done it and waited if I had the resources to wait that extra 6 months and build it exactly the way that I can double my profit. Because my work is the same, my staffing is the same, the drama is the same, but my profit can potentially be doubled just by charging an extra $500 per bed with the same amount of expenses, right? So that's kind of the takeaway here on the first option here, okay? Renovating and doing an addition. So I hope you like that and have some good nuggets there.